Chatted with a crew member on one of the boats participating in this year's Lofoten fishing. There are reports of good catches, especially for net and line fishermen. The fishing had a bit of ups and downs, and we also had some bad weather. For us who use nets, the catch has increased, and on Thursday we caught about 3,000 kilograms, while today we collected 2,000 kilograms, and we are very happy with that. Luckily, we got the fish delivered so we didn't have to waste time gutting it, says Alf Johan. The boat they fished in was called Camilla and was 35 feet long. Father Rune was a versatile man who had not been in the habit of going to Lofoten for many years. Only in the last 5 years has he made the trip to Lofoten fishing. In previous years, he had only fished in the area around and sometimes did quite well as a carpenter. If the weather is favorable in the future, I expect that we will catch our quota of 44.5 tons within a week. Prices vary a bit, but we got between 14 to 15 for round fish and 21 to 22 per kilo of round. Alf Johan Nilsson concludes that we currently have about 16 tons left in this year's quota. Norway wouldn't be the country it is today without a fish. It all started with cod. Norwegian cod with natural flavors is a diverse, healthy and reliable choice for the whole family. It is sustainably harvested in the cold, clear Norwegian waters. Cod is probably the healthiest and leanest protein you can eat. It is rich in protein, vitamins A, D and B12, selenium, antioxidants and omega-3. A portion of cod for dinner meets your daily omega-3 needs. Coastal cod, fjords and coastal areas. Norwegian Arctic cod, feeding grounds in the Barents Sea, spawning grounds from Finnmark to Stad, with the most important spawning grounds off the Lofoten Islands. Farmed cod, grown in sea cages along the Norwegian coast. Norwegian Atlantic cod is a species of white fish that belongs to the cod family. This type of cod thrives in colder waters than other cod species, such as Pacific cod. The world's largest cod population lives in the waters off the Norwegian coast in the Atlantic Ocean. This has left Norway and Norwegians skilled in fishing and ocean management, and having a rigorous and well-managed system for maintaining and caring for our cod stocks. Within the Atlantic cod, there are different types of wild cod in our Norwegian waters. Coastal cod is more stationary and spends its entire life in shallow waters along the coast. Northeast Arctic cod, also known as scry, live far north in the Barents Sea and swim long distances down the Norwegian coast to spawn each winter. This makes scry large, lean and muscular. In Norway there are also farmed cod producers along the Norwegian coast. Norwegian Atlantic cod has had existential significance for people along the Norwegian coast for thousands of years, not just as food but also as a trade commodity. 11,000 years ago, the first settlers arrived on the Norwegian coast. They were looking for good fishing, and it can be safe to say they found what they were looking for. One species, cod, was especially abundant and has been the most important resource for Norwegian fisheries ever since. Cod is a popular fish on the dinner table. Its meat has a mild taste, white color and can be combined with many different spices and side dishes. Cod is very versatile and can be grilled, roasted, cooked or eaten raw in sushi. In addition, cod also contains several important nutrients. With high amounts of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins and proteins, cod is rich in iodine. The longline is one of the traditional Norwegian fishing techniques, which was first used in the 1500s. It is a long line with floats and sinkers to keep it at the right depth for cod fishing. On the line there are branch lines, or snoods, attached about 3 feet, or 1 meter, apart. The snoods have baited hooks. Traditionally the longline's hooks are baited on land and then coiled into an open bucket. The bucket is then brought to the fishing banks and then played out on from the boat. The longline is classified as a passive tool because when placed at the ocean it does not move, but attracts the fish by the smell of the bait. The line stays in the water for 4 to 5 hours, sometimes more. Pulling in the line was hard work, and the longest lines could have 1,000 hooks. Traditionally one of the crew pulled the line over a wooden roller while another gaffed the fish and threw them on board. Traditionally the long line and snoods were made of natural fibers, but today the ropes are synthetic. The modern longliners have mechanical autoline systems and can set and haul up to 30.00 hooks. There are many positive effects from using the longline today compared to other fishing methods. The fish have far better quality with a firmer and whiter flesh. Also, the seabed is not harmed using the longline, there are rarely any ghost fishing and you only get the selected catch. In addition, the method is more energy saving and have a smaller carbon footprint. If you have been fishing in the ocean, then you should probably use passive gear. Below is an overview of the tools used at sea. The deficiency is related to the behavior of fishing gear towards fish. The device actively searches for fish, while the passive device stands in the sea and waits for the fish to search for the device. Common tools are also used as a boats are usually adjusted manually on land and coiled in boxes or buckets. Boats carry from a few to up to 100 boxes, each box has 300 to 400 hooks. The principle of fishing with a fishing line is that the fishing line is dropped into the sea at the desired depth. The fish took the bait and the line limped back to the boat. Fishing boats are equipped with automatic fishing lines. Fly line fishing is carried out using ocean-going boats typically larger than 20 meters. Seagoing autonomous vessels lay 30,000 to 50,000 hooks a day and a voyage can last 6 to 7 weeks. Automatic line fishing is about to replace traditional line fishing, also for smaller coastal fleets. The spinning net is set out by throwing an anchor with a buoy from the boat. A wading rope is attached to the buoy. The boat releases the rope and wades out in an arc, releases the net and pulls the rope at the other end of the net to the buoy. The boat was moored to the anchor and the boat was pulled in. You leave the anchor and make the next cast so as not to overlap the area you are fishing. In this way, one turns the compass around the anchor, which explains the name. Traditional purse seine fishing takes place with smaller vessels, but there are also variations of seine nets developed for larger boats, in which the vessel follows the drag instead of lying at anchor. Trawl nets have a long funnel shape, trawl bag, pulled by ships, fishing boats. This is a tool that works. Bottom trawl nets consist of many parts. Behind is a fishing bag made of thick wire or double wire. In front of the trawl, each side has two screen doors that keep the trawl open. The principle of trawl fishing is that the trawl net is pulled across the sea so that the fish are captured and fall into the trawl bag. Trawling takes place for several types of fish: cod, shrimp, pollock and capelin. On an average cod trawl, the hole in the front of the net bag is about 5 to 6 meters high and about 110 meters wide. The mesh bag extends about 70 meters. The trawlers belong to the ocean fishing fleet, with a vessel length of over 28 meters. The spinning net is the largest fishing gear in use and is an active fishing gear. Snurpenoter is used only for teaching fish and fish that live in the upper waters. Before recording begins, the note looks like a web wall. This mesh wall must surround the fish. The fish is closed with its beak growling at each other from the underside. Thus, the net wall has become a closed bag trapping fish inside. Finding schools of fish is a very important part of seine fishing. Only when a large enough shoal is found can the bill be thrown into the sea. Most fishing boats use pumps to bring the catch onto the boat, but some As years of living in the frigid Atlantic Ocean accumulated, an army of white-clad, knife-wielding Norwegian factory workers disintegrated in a matter of minutes. In a display of perfect optimization, individual fish parts streamed along a conveyor belt around and above me, with various cuts for their most niche market. Nothing is wasted, not skin, fins, bones, organs or fish eggs. Fresh tongues went straight to Oslo. All heads are bound for Nigeria. What's most notable, however, is the identity of the fish being processed in what seems like an absolute embarrassment of biomass: Atlantic cod, a species that many North Americans consider symbol of overfishing and regulatory failure. At George Bank and other historic cod fisheries in New England, once abundant groundfish stocks are at near record lows. In Canadian maritime fisheries, cod populations have long succumbed to overfishing and are in decline. Yet in the village of Melbu in the Arctic Circle, at one of Norway's 9 cod processing plants, a productive fishing industry is thriving. On both sides of the Atlantic, the same species in the same habitat face the same social dependence on this essential food source and economic engine. However, one fishery currently delivers a sustainable annual catch of 1 million tons, while others have failed or are failing. The dependence of northern economies on cod cannot be overstated. A slogan still heard within the species is, "In cod we trust." But Canada can no longer share such beliefs. Europeans who had already reduced their stocks sailed into Canadian waters starting in the late 1400s to harvest from pristine shores filled with cod. At the time, it was said people just need to drop a basket of fish to catch it. Surname. From then until the 1950s, annual production of northern cod stocks was reliably around 250,000 tons. But technological advances in detecting and catching schools of fish, larger ships with larger stocks, and increased fishing effort have caused stocks to dwindle. In fact, an ecological regime shift has occurred so far, with essentially a new fish and shellfish community that appears unlikely to return to its original state. Ultimately, the biomass of northern cod fell to a staggering 1% of its former abundance, leaving Canada's fisheries minister with no choice in 1992 but to close the fishery. Northern snow. This action has caused serious social consequences. Canadians can no longer count on cod to sustain a multi-generational lifestyle. 40,000 people immediately left this $500 million a year industry. Many people had no other skills to rely on, and in a decade the population in Newfoundland fell by 10%. Once thriving villages became ghost towns, and most of those who remained were forced to accept government assistance while waiting for the cod to return. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, enough scry cod, the migratory source of the Barents Sea, is being landed to provide nearly 3 billion fish meals a year, a little-known success but impressive on an overfished planet. What is most unusual, however, is the bilateral oversight, in which Norway and Russia have achieved an enviably far-sighted and cooperative strategy. It happened in stages, with both countries beginning what are now considered classic scientific studies of their fisheries in the late 19th century. The establishment of the Council for the Exploration of the Sea, the International, in 1902 encouraged contact between Norwegian and Russian scientists, but the outbreak of World War I led to minimal cooperation until mid-century. Sustainability is encouraged with the following details. Norwegian seafood fishing vessels pull their nets in the same lane to avoid habitat destruction. Norwegian regulations require all bycatch of non-target species or bycatch to be used for food and to be considered in ecosystem analysis. In fact, a Norwegian seafoods fisherman will automatically be fired if caught throwing even a single bycatch of fish into the sea. I saw this at work standing next to the back door of the Melbu factory, where I was last March as a guest of Whole Foods as the company explored potential sustainable sources of flaky fish. Power. I watched as crates of medium and large cod were unloaded from one of the fishing boats and wheeled away for disassembly by the 80 staff standing ready at their station. Every day, workers there catch between 15,000 and 20,000 pounds of scry cod. Fish arrive here reliably each spring to spawn off the Norwegian coast because, simply put, they persist in abundant numbers through careful management. Meanwhile, Canada has proven to be an extraordinary example to the world of resource depletion. There is no better illustration of the importance of the precautionary principle in fisheries, that is, the idea that resource managers have a responsibility to demonstrate that their actions are sustainable. In Canada, an increasingly desperate fishing industry has pressured the cod is, without doubt, one of the sea fishing favorites. A popular eating fish and sport fish in equal measure, cod populations are present throughout Europe, but being a cold water species, they are more common around the northern European waters of the UK, Scandinavia and Nordic regions. The population of Atlantic cod does extend across the Atlantic to North America, Greenland and Canada. A shoaling species, moving in large-size structured aggregations, their diet consists of small fish, mollusks, crustaceans and seaworms. They're not fussy, and with their colossal bucket mouth, they will consume most things they come across if in a feeding mood. When on a cod fishing trip from the shore, a big smelly bait of worms, squid, fish, or crab is most effective, but boat fishing for them a large shad or perch, imitating a baitfish will see the best results. Even though the cod aren't known for their explosive fighting qualities, you'll certainly know when you've hooked one, and the famous cod nod from a hooked fish is something that all sea anglers can recognize. There are two main populations of cod in Norwegian waters, the coastal cod and the Norwegian Arctic cod. The coastal cod spends its entire life close to the seabed in shallow waters along the coast. It is, however, the Norwegian Arctic cod that has been the cornerstone of the Norwegian fishing industry. Unlike the coastal cod, the Norwegian Arctic cod travels far out to sea to the north for much of its life, but when it returns in numbers. Every winter, a miracle happens in the northern part of Norway. The scry, prime Norwegian Atlantic cod, returns from the ice-cold waters of the Barents Sea to their original spawning grounds off the northern Norwegian coast. This heroic journey means the Norwegian Arctic cod develops strong muscles and incredibly firm flesh, unsurpassed in taste and texture. Norwegian Arctic cod fishing is limited by nature. It can only take place over a short season between January and April when the scry spawns off the coast of northern Norway. During this period, the quality of the cod, as well as their much prized roe and liver, is at its best. This scry season is incredibly important for coastal communities in northern Norway, and for the country as a whole. Every year since 1991, the World Cod Fishing Championships have been held at Svolvær in Lofoten, a major fishing festival and a celebration in honor of the cod. The fishing grounds are relatively confined, further constraining the supply of the popular scry. The scry is shipped to supermarkets all over Europe within hours of being caught, guaranteeing the quality and freshness of the scry. Seafood lovers patiently await the arrival of scry in stores and markets around the world.